I feel like I'm saying this all the time, but today we have another important topic. Today's topic is access modifiers that you probably already have seen without knowing it. Access modifiers can be used inside a class to define how other parts of your code can interact with variables or methods of this class. Possible access modifiers are public, protected, and private. Let's start with public. Anything declared as public can be accessed from anywhere in the code without restrictions. Next, we have private. Things that are marked as private can only be accessed from within the class they are declared in. So if you declare class B that inherits from class A, then class B cannot directly access members or methods that are declared as private in class A. And also other parts of your code cannot access those members and variables. For the case that you want to make variables and methods accessible in child classes, you can use the protected access modifier. Protected allows you to access things inside the class itself, but those variables and methods are also accessible from within child classes. However, from other parts of your code, you still cannot access those things that are declared as protected. So basically, you can order those three access modifiers by how much access they allow. From public with no limitations, then protected, limiting it on the class itself and all its child classes, and private with only allowing access inside the class itself. When we create a new class, let's say a custom player character, and give it a health variable, you see that we don't have specifically defined any modifier. Per default, if you don't define a modifier, it will use private. Therefore, currently I would not be able to access this variable from somewhere else than this class itself. In scenarios where you want to have the private modifier, but it would also default to private, I would still write out the private modifier, because it makes it in the end a bit more readable. To make use of a modifier, you just have to write the modifier, so in our case private, and then colon. Everything that follows after it will be declared as private until a new modifier is used, or obviously the end of the class is reached. You can also write another private modifier afterwards if you want to divide your code into different sections. Now, let's say we have a handleDef method. Obviously, this method we don't want to expose to everything in our code. But if our custom player character class will be inherited at some point, it makes sense to make this method accessible for its child classes. For that, we have to define it as protected. So again, here we have to write the modifier and then colon operator, and then everything that follows after the protected keyword will be considered as protected. Therefore, this block uses the protected modifier and this block the private modifier. Lastly, let's say we want to make it possible for other entities to deal damage to our custom class. For that, we could define a new method dealDamage and declare it as public. This way we can access the dealDamage method from everywhere else in the code and also change its implementation later on in our child classes. Overall, you should use access modifiers to organize your code and make it easier to maintain. Therefore, when designing your classes, think about which parts of your code need to be accessed from where. Does a variable need to be public, or should it be private to prevent you from accidentally changing it from somewhere else in the code? Like always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Otherwise, see you next time.